Snake, we have to talk. I have another project for you.
Something worthy of my services, Mr. Giraffe? Or another of your vendettas?
Coming up on Crossfire Collectibles, our custom Cobra Commander as Old Snake from Transformers G1 cartoon, Only Human. Stick around. What's up and welcome to Crossfire Collectibles. Today's video, we're going to be doing a custom build and tutorial on a Cobra Commander as Old Snake from the Transformers G1 cartoon, Only Human. So this figure actually has been officially released by Hasbro. However, I'm not happy with it. You know, basically they used a Rise of Cobra Storm Shadow body and a boonie hat and all. And I'm like, man, that's not what I'm after. I like a bunch of these like TCG cards, you know, the looks that they have Old Snake on them. So I'm going for more of that type of look. If you guys get the Skybound comics, you know that Cobra Commander pretty much shows up as Old Snake in issue 1 of Cobra Commander, and it's pretty cool. So I'm going to kind of shoot for that look. And what we need is basically more of a trench coat, you know, some high boots, a wider brimmed hat, a nice popped collar, you know, some stuff like that. So here's what I have together, and these are going to be our parts we're going to use. Now, we're going to go ahead and explain everything as far as what these parts are. So first up, I'll show you the hat. And this is actually the hat from a Star Wars Cad Bane from the Clone Wars, number CW13. So we're going to paint this, and I think that'll fit nicely. Alright, next up, we have the upper and lower torso, as well as the arms from the Rise of Cobra Destro, version 23. Below that, we have a skirt. We picked this up from AVAX Labs, and this is called Imperial Skirt. So, pretty cool. For our head, we're actually going to use a G.I. Joe 25th Anniversary Cobra Commander number 24 head. I'd like to use one of the newer ones. This one's a bit thin, however the hat is very small and this is more of a size to actually fit in it properly. And then we have a pair of hands here, and these are fingerless gloves. They came off of a 30th anniversary Firefly from Renegades, and that was Firefly version 23. And then finally we have some upper and lower legs. There are two different figures. The upper legs are from the Rise of Cobra Elite Viper version 1, and the knees as well. So I had to boil and pop the lower legs to get the knees off and then put them on these lower legs. And the lower legs here are from Cobra Viper version 19. Now you can also use version 16, you know, they're a lot more easier to come by than that one. But we had these extra laying around, so we said, why not? Let's go ahead and do it. Alright, so now we're going to move on to our pens. These are our paint markers, and you know we like to use Gundam markers. So the color of Old Snake, it varies, you know, in different looks. You have, you know, anywhere from a dark gray to a light gray to a reddish brown to, you know, a reddish gray. So it's like, it's really odd. I'm going to simply go with a flat, you know, medium gray. And that right here is going to be done with the Gundam marker GM12. We have an inner, I guess, collar and tie. That's going to be all one color, and I'm going to do that not necessarily a white, but more of this very light blue. And this is a Gundam marker GM188. For our upper legs and lower torso, we have another Gundam marker. This is our blue. This is a GM168. For our inner collar, around the shoulders and cuffs, we have this red, and this is a Gundam marker GM07. Our black, and this is a Gundam marker GM301 pour marker, and this is mainly going to be for the gloves and the boots. And then we have a few acrylic markers for a couple of details. I do have this red here, and if I'm not happy with the way the Gundam, I think it's more like a glossy look, how that looks, we're going to use this over top of it. A couple of details for the skirt belt and the hat. We're actually got to build a button for the hat. We'll show you how to do that with some sculpting putty. And we have our silver right here for, I guess the belt. And then a gold, which would be for the hat. I haven't decided if we're going to use gold or silver yet. I might just make both of them one color so it matches. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and start the whole paint process. So before we do that, please subscribe to the channel. Alright, so go ahead and bring in our plate and get our pieces separated here. We're going to have to take this skirt off of this torso. I don't want it to rip. That's one of the things I'm worried about because it does have a little, tear right here. But I think it'll be okay. This is actually a color I like, so if I can just go over this with a good once over with that, I think it'll work. And then here is our destro torso and arms. So this shouldn't be too much of a problem. I think the main thing I want to do is get in there and get that inner collar with that red done. That's the main thing. But first, I definitely have to do the gray around the body. So this is probably going to take the longest because it's the largest piece. So we're going to go ahead and break our gray out, and then we're going to go ahead and get cracking. Alright, we have a base gray coat on most of it. There's a little bit underneath of the upper torso I need to get to, but I'm going to let this dry before I, move that around and get to it. And then we need to fill in these lower arms. I do want to get mainly the inside of that flailed collar, but we gotta let that dry a bit, so we're gonna go and put that down. Pretty much have to do everything in this gray, and in this lighting it almost gives like a green tint, but it really isn't. But we're gonna go ahead and move on, and we're gonna get this skirt done. So we'll get the main piece of this, which will be gray, and then we're gonna leave the inside color alone, and then we have to put the black around the belt. There's a couple of buttons, I haven't decided if we're going to do silver or gold yet, but we're going to go ahead and get this painted. Okay, so we have our skirt painted up, and we're going to set that down. The final piece of gray we have to do is the hat, so I'm going to go ahead and get the top done, or should I do the bottom? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do the top first, and then we're going to go ahead and let this stuff dry for a minute, and we'll take a quick break. But first, we're going to paint this up. Alright, hat's mostly painted. We got to set that down because we're running out of finger room. Now we're going to let this dry for a moment, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Alright. So while we're still waiting on all that to dry, I figure we'll go ahead and add the blue to the legs. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these off, and we're simply gonna just get the upper thigh, the knee, and very little of the top of the leg here in blue, so that way it'll be much easier for us when we go to assemble him, and that'll be all done. I do have to do the lower torso on the rest of the main figure, but we'll get to that later. But for now, let's go ahead and get this knee and all that good stuff painted blue. Alright, so real quick, as much as I was not wanting to, we're going to have to make a couple passes with the blue so we can maneuver that knee around and get into the spots we missed. Alright, so we have some of the blue down, not all. Let me put that in there so you can see some of the stuff on the plate. But we got to do a couple of touch-ups just to get in some spots that we couldn't, and there's also some spots we can't hold. I also have enough paint on my fingers already, I don't really need any more. But while we let those dry, we're going to go ahead and prepare our next markers. So I'm just going to give these a little shake, explain to you a little bit about Old Snake. So if you guys haven't seen the episode Only Human from Transformers, so basically Victor Giraffe, he's in search to find a way to take down the Autobots. So what he does is he hears about a guy named Old Snake, which is actually COBRA Commander, who has some technology to make synthoids. Now, if you remember the synthoids from the Real American Hero cartoon, basically they just got a little bit of DNA from a real person and made a totally fake one. So there was clones, multiple issues of different characters, throughout, both seasons of the show. And it was a pretty interesting concept to bring that over to Transformers G1. I think it worked. Having Old Snake in there was definitely, good to see, especially if you were a G.I. Joe fan and wanted to see a little bit of a crossover in there to know, hey, the universes are shared. So it was a pretty cool addition. But apart from that, I think we're ready to move on to our next piece. So we're gonna go ahead and bring out our Destro torso again. And he's still got a little damp spots, but I think it's enough for us to work with. And I need to get the blue on the lower area, but I first want to try to get up inside of that lower torso with some more gray, and then we'll have to set him back down to dry. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we have that kind of darker gray up in there around the lower torso. We have some on the upper torso. We still have to let some spots dry. So we're gonna go ahead and set him back down for a few. And then we're gonna go ahead and take another break and then we'll be back in a bit. And we are back. So during our break, I went ahead and filled in some parts I needed to, the lower arms, the rest of the legs I didn't get to do. And then as it's just drying, it has too much of a green tint to it. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over all of this with a GM 190, and this is a dark gray. So I think that'll just work out better for what we want. I mean, the color we have now kind of looks like a more tune accurate color, but I think I want to go darker on it. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and I think it'll work out pretty good. Alright, so now hopefully this dark gray will dry nice, and we still got to go over a few more parts that we can't get with this once over. So here I'm going to take this hat and fill in a little more that we missed, and then I got to get the top of it. So I think we need to take a break and let this all dry and then get them arms finished, and then we'll come back and then we'll get this all straightened out. Alright, we are back. So I went ahead and added that dark gray back over all the other pieces, the upper and lower torso, the skirt, and the hat. So hopefully I don't have to do too much more touch-ups with that because I'm running low on it. However, now I think we're good to go ahead and move in and do some of the other parts. So we're going to bring our hands and boots in, and we're going to go ahead and add the black. So we'll bring out our pour marker, give it a little shake, and then we'll start to apply the black. Alright, and our second boot is painted. So we're going to set that down, let that dry. And now we got to get these hands. What I want to do is avoid getting any paint on the fingers and just go for the gloves themselves. So let's see how we can do with this. Alright, first hand's down. That wasn't too bad. I'm going to go ahead and get the second one done. Alright, now our second hand is finished. So I don't think that these boots are totally dry yet, but we're going to go ahead and just get the feet done while we have it out, because I can hold this end, and we're going to go ahead and do the lower boots now. Alright, and there's the rest of the boots. This would have been so much more, time consuming if I had a regular 25th Viper, because the boots are already black. But unfortunately, I didn't have one, so we had to, make with what we had, and that was the, I think that was a Cobra Pilot, that came with the Fang. But apart from that, we're gonna go ahead and pull out our other pieces and see how they're drying. And it's still a little damp. Yeah, we're gonna have to go ahead and take another break because this stuff is just, maybe because it was a double coat, the wrong paint went on the first time. So yeah, we put that, I don't know, it almost has a green tint to it. Like I said, gray on there, and it just kind of screwed us up. So we have to wait for like a double layer to dry now, which kind of sucks. But we'll take another break and come back and see what we can finish up. Alright, so while we're still waiting on some things to dry, I think we're going to go ahead and break out our red, and we're going to attempt to put these details, you know, the inside of the collar, rings around the shoulder area and around the cuffs. Okay, so we have some red on there. As you can see, quite a bit bled when I did the collar. But that's okay. I was kind of expecting that to happen. I'm going to go in there very carefully and color that neck and shirt. What I should have did was just crack the torso and took that piece off. It would have been so much easier, but it also was a pain in the ass, and you got a risk of pretty much destroying the torso. So I'm going to go ahead and set this down and let it dry, and we'll take a look at some of the other stuff. The boots are looking good. The blue is definitely good. The skirt is still a little damp. Alright, so I'm actually not going to worry about this glossy look that it has. I can basically just go out and spray this with a quick once over with a matte spray. So that'll take care of that. But I want to work on this and try to get it finished if I can. So we're going to go ahead and take out our light blue and go in and get that shirt done. Okay, so we had a slight battery malfunction, and I did not realize because I was painting. But we got it back up. Well, I had to wait a few minutes for it to charge. I went ahead and did a couple other things. Alright, so I mentioned doing the buckles out of like a molding clay. I decided against that and just went ahead and took 2 little pieces of cardstock. And I was just trying to lift this because they're still a little damp. But here's one for the hat, and here's one for the belt. So what I did was just kind of dab some black on them and let the paint sink in. So I'll put one on the hat and one on the belt, and I'll just do a slight, very thin border with the color that we use. And I think I've decided I'm going to go with silver. Anyways, back to the figure. We went ahead and colored in the shirt and tie area. So the blue was bleeding a little too much into the side colors, so I went ahead and just did it in white. And for that pen, I used my highlight pen that I normally do eye whites with, and I think that worked out pretty well. Didn't bleed as much. There's a little bit of areas in there where it did, but overall I think I'm okay with this, so I'll leave it at that. And then next I decided to wait to paint anything else till we got back with the camera, and we just have to add some blue. So we're gonna go do the lower torso here, like around the crotch and butt, and then that should be it. We gotta let that dry. We will add our buckles to the skirt and hat, and then I think we can assemble them. So let's go ahead and get this lower piece painted. Alright, so there's that. So I don't think we really needed to paint this since the skirt's going over it anyway and it's going to be covered up. But I figured I would have it blue, you know, just in case, you know, I go into some major, you know, judging with this and be like, oh, you didn't paint the lower part of the torso. Well, now I did, and that's painted. So we're just going to set this down kind of like this and let it dry. And then we're going to work on our buckles. So for the buckles, we're going to use our little metallic silver marker, and that should already be ready to go. So we need to get our buckles up. And this is going to be tricky. I can only do one side at a time, and I have to be very careful. These are very thin, and I basically got to get that silver around the border super, super carefully. But I need to attach them as well. So we do have a little bit of glue here, and we'll put a small dab onto the skirt. And we'll go ahead and do that first, like an extremely small dab to where hardly anything's even coming out, and then we'll just give a little dot right on it. So this should be enough right there. If you can see it, very, very small drop. Get our little black buckle and place that right onto it like that. So that should be good. Give it a little push with the thumb, line it up, and then we need to simply let that dry for a moment. And then hopefully it'll be enough to where we can put that slight silver edging around it. So with that down, now we need to bring in our hat. And we'll apply a buckle to this. I believe this will be the front. So with the Cad Bane hat, you have that small little design right here from each side that meets, and you got that little opening. We're gonna place the buckle right inside of that. Once again, small little dab of glue. And that should be enough. Alright, so that'll be our hat buckle. I think I prefer it to be down a little bit more, so we'll see if we can slightly put that down some. Probably right against the brim, but I do want to get that silver on first before I do too much with it. Alright, it's probably something like that. So now, I guess we're going to go in with this silver. I don't have anything thinner, so hopefully this will work, and I just got to be very careful just to go around the edging to it. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Did have a little bit of bubbling in there, but I think that'll work. So we'll let that dry and settle in, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the skirt and get that done. There we go. There's our skirt buckle, and I think that will do as well. So we'll set that back and give these a few minutes to dry. So while we wait on those, we're going to go ahead and bring in a couple other things. So what would Old Snake be without a couple of weapons? So we have a couple of Star Wars pistols right here, I believe. This one may be a G.I. Joe, I'm not sure. And we're going to try out some of these. Yes, he did not have any weapons in the G1 cartoon, but if you've read the Skybound comics, oh yes, he has weapons, and he is pretty brutal with them. So going by the way that the them TCG cards looks, this might be more of the look of them right here. So I'm going to try this one first and see how well it holds on the hands. And this might be just a bit too big, so I don't know if this one will work. Bummer. Okay, we're not going to do that, so let's try this one. Yeah, that's a little better. That fits a bit more, and I think that would work. So that's going to be one. And just in case, I do have a backup, and we have this small pistol here. So, you know, just as a backup weapon, I have them dual wielding. And we'll bring that one in. So cool. We got those. I think we'll give these pieces just about. All right, so I think they're good to go. So the main thing we gotta do is get that skirt on over top of the lower torso piece here, without this ripping and without smudging that paint. And then the fun part is getting them legs on. So before we get to that, I want to go ahead and pop these hands on. So we'll get the left hand on first. And that one popped in there pretty nicely. So get the right hand in. Alright, we're good to go on that one. Gun popped out, but that's okay. I think that'll work. So now we're gonna go ahead and attempt to get this skirt on. I really debated on just cutting it, you know, to make it go on a bit easier. And this buckle might pop off, so that's one of my worries with this. But I think we'll be okay. All right, so my fear happened and it split. so that's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and repair this and glue it on. But let me get the legs on. So we'll go ahead and get these legs together. Let me see, I'm gonna pop one on, and now we can just simply put the skirt straight over these once we have the legs in place. And we'll just glue the skirt back in, because, you know, it'll save us some time now instead of having to worry about everything. So let's get these assembled. All right, legs are on. I'm just gonna have to glue the skirt on, which kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. Hopefully it'll blend in pretty well. I mean, when we had it on originally, it did look good, but now, you know, there's a bit of a gap, and that's what's gonna screw me up. But I think we can make this work. So I'm gonna have to probably do this off camera to maybe heat this a little bit and then forge it together. So give me a bit for that and be right back. Alright, so now off camera, I went ahead and did a little repair on that. I just took some modeling clay, stuck it in there into the little split and cracks, and pressed it in. So hopefully that made it work. I was working on a few touch-ups around the skirt and all that from the force and rubbing a little bit of the paint. But while I have the marker out, I'm gonna just go ahead and color over the area where the clay did the repair. I think that'll do. So we're gonna sit back and just let this dry for a few moments. And in the meantime, we'll set him aside. So I'm gonna grab his little stand here, and then we'll plug them feet into it. I think the rest of the paint is okay. I don't need any touch-ups, you know, like the boots are good, the gloves are good. I don't think there's really any areas with that red I need to do too much of, but we can set that back. And now we'll get ready for his head. So with that, we need to pop it onto the little ball joint at the top of the neck, and then we need to attach the hat. So I don't think the hat is going to fit totally on here, and I'll show you what I mean. It's because I told you this hat is very small. You know, Cad Bane had a very thin head. Even though this Cobra Commander head is pretty good and thin, it's not quite thin enough to fit in there. So I mean, we could set it on there, but I think the best option is going to be to glue it on. So once we get the head on, we'll position the hat where we want it, and then we'll just add a little bit of glue right to the top and set it on there. So I think this might be good to go, and we shouldn't have any problems just popping this on. Okay, so we got our head on. Get that arm back out of the way. I had to take off the stand because the feet kept poking at me. So we'll get that down. I don't think we need our plates anymore, so we can go ahead and get these out of here. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put some glue around the inner edging of that, and it should go right onto his head pretty good. And that way we can position it the way we want it and let it dry. It should work with that. All right, I think that's enough. Bring him over, carefully position that where we want it. A bit like that. And also, because it's going to be glued on there, it'll allow us to move his head around pretty good. So we could just grab the hat and turn it, and it shouldn't have any issues. Okay, so there we go so far. So I think that's pretty much how we're going to want him. We just need to sit back and let that dry a moment, and then we'll go ahead and put him in a nice pose and throw him up onto the turntable, and then give you some final thoughts. So we'll be right back.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Be sure to check out our previous videos. A link will always be pinned in the comments.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
Alright, so here you have it. Here is our custom Cobra Commander as Old Snake from Transformers G1 episode Only Human. He looks pretty cool. I went ahead and did this darker color, you know, as I said, to resemble more of the TCG card. I didn't want to go so much as the specific cartoon accurate one. I think they did better artist renderings of it, and I think it looks much better. This was an absolute nightmare to mess with. You know, I had paints bleed and just pour out of the pens and run all over the place. So it was a few-day process, and as bad as I wanted to have it up this past weekend, we're now into Monday and getting it up here. I do have some shiny spots on them, and as I said, I can take it outside and just spray it with a matte paint to kind of dullen that up some. But it also might look like, you know, he's catching a little bit of rain. You know, it could be a rain trench coat and the rain is just running off of him. So I could do either or with it. Just the way the light catches it, it's a little too shiny for my liking. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I think he looks cool. The parts I chose, you know, were, in my opinion, the best things to do to, you know, get that look that I was after. And I think they worked out pretty well. Some tight spots, you know, maybe I could have cracked the torso to get in there and, you know, do them a little better. But overall, it came out all right. I'm not 100% displeased with it. It's not my best, but it's also not my worst, and it's tolerable for, you know, this taking on it. So anyways, that's going to do it for this little tutorial build and review. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please, like always, leave that giant thumbs up, subscribe, tickle that bell so you're notified when we post future videos. Be sure to follow us on social media, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.